Hey dancers, welcome back to the show. This is season 3, episode 1 of Broche Banter, where we talk about all things adult ballet, how to stay motivated, how to get really good, and how to be inspired in your daily life. Today we are talking with the wonderful, absolutely fabulous Susanne. I hope you really love this conversation. We talked about the philosophy of teaching ballet, how it works with teaching yoga, comparing our different experiences working with adults over the years of our time as teachers. I hope you have a really great time with this conversation. My microphone was a little bit quiet in this episode. I have since figured out how to fix it, so I do apologize that it can be a little bit quiet at times. I hope you hang in there with me and have a really great time anyways. With that, enjoy. Well, welcome to the show, Susanne. I'm so excited to have you today on Broche Banter. I've been looking for this conversation for so long. Great to have you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
So we've met over Instagram, which is a beautiful place and has so many great kindred spirits in adult ballet. And you've started ballet as an adult. It's a lifelong dream for you. You've started ballet as an adult. You're proclaimed self-taught, right? So you're learning kind of on your own, navigating your journey. And recently went on point and all kinds of exciting things. I'd love to hear just a little bit about your about what ballet means to you. What brought you to it? What took you so long? What are you excited about for it? I'm really curious to hear. I'm curious to hear from you.
Oh gosh, what took you so long is a really good question, I think. Because honestly, I don't know myself. I mean, the thing was, I wanted to learn ballet ever since I was, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old. But we couldn't afford classes, so I couldn't go. And then over the years, something strange happened, and I forgot. It was always for years, it was my biggest dream. And then I just forgot. And I think that's an interesting thing that the brain does. That when you can't see a way, that it sort of kind of maybe out of kindness just pushes it into the back of your brain so you don't always think about it. And then a few years back something strange happened, and I saw ballet on TV, and it kind of, it was like a lightning. It struck me, and this memory came back, and I was like, oh my gosh, how could I have forgotten this huge dream?
Yeah.
Um, and I started to search YouTube on the very same day to to see if I can learn to dance.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and ever since I kind of I couldn't go to classes because we were traveling a lot back then. So we were always on the move, so that was difficult. And YouTube basically was my go-to medium because I didn't know what else to do and where else to have a look.
Yeah.
And it took a while until I really learned ballet because that was before COVID, and I didn't find a lot, not at least not for complete beginners. Um, there were videos where people say, okay, you do it tendu, and you do pas de bourrée. That's for a complete beginner. That's like no idea what you want from me.
Gotcha.
Yes. So I started like dance fitness classes that were fun. And then I have to say I was really grateful that COVID closed all the ballet schools because
Yeah.
then teachers started to share videos for beginners, because many adult beginners already have experience. They went to ballet schools as children, and when you say tendu, they know what to do. But for me, that was everything was foreign. I had no idea what to do. When they said tendu, I had no idea, was it the foot or was it the movement with the hand, or is it always the same combination or not? So I had to start from complete zero. And during COVID, those videos began to pop up. So that's when I really started to learn, to properly learn ballet. So yeah, that's what it is. And what it means for me, honestly, it means the fulfillment of this huge dream.
Mm,
And when I do ballet, I feel like coming home.
mm.
It's truly this amazing feeling of coming home to a place that you've been missing for so long, and now you're there, and that's it for me.
That's a beautiful feeling. I think so many of us relate to that feeling where you can oddly know that something is home without even knowing what it was.
Exactly.
How can it be home if you never heard of it? Or if you never heard of a tendu, how can it be home? But but so many of us who came to it as adults have that same funny feeling when we first arrive there. We say, this is where I belong, but why
Yeah,
do I know that?
exactly. It's very strange. Yes.
Very strange. You say, this is for me, I am for this, but I don't know why. And I'm still not sure I
Yeah.
can do it. And it's really confusing, but somehow this is it. This is it somehow.
Exactly.
So a lot of complete beginners get a little bit overwhelmed in the beginning with all of those details. Did it ever deter you? Like, did you ever think like, oh, maybe this isn't going to work out? Or at that point, you were just like so hooked because you remembered this dream and you wanted to keep going. Like, how did you get over that initial hump? That's often
Mhm.
like a big turnoff.
Mhm. Well, I have to say, I did struggle a lot in the beginning because even the beginner videos, as I said, I was starting with zero. They were too fast for me, so I always had to slow them down. Even to the point where, let's say, there was a pas de bourrée, and the teachers just threw this in, forgetting that a complete beginner has no idea what to do, and that is such a fast movement that I had to go through it frame by frame. So the point 25 that YouTube offers was
Yep.
way too fast,
Uh-huh.
and I went through it frame by frame. And I do remember that there were short center dances for like 10 minutes. And it took me about 2 hours to work through these 10 minutes to be
Yep.
able to follow the movements properly. And that could have been very frustrating. But I never got frustrated because I was just so grateful that there was something I can do, there was something I can learn.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, the gratitude kind of, I think, swallowed all the frustration that I could have had.
Mhm.
But maybe it's because I've waited so long,
Yeah.
that I don't give frustration space. This is my home and it's not allowed in.
Wow. I feel like I want to hear that again. I don't give frustration space. That was so, I like that. How do you, that's really nice. You just make everything else big enough that there's no
Yeah.
room left for that.
Yeah.
Whereas frustration can sometimes swallow you whole and it can sometimes really send you off into a tizzy. So that's, I don't
Exactly.
allow space for frustration. I love that phrase.
Yeah, I think when I teach myself, I often say, just be so invested in having fun, in enjoying, that there is just no space for anything else.
Yeah.
Be so busy with enjoying what you do, with being grateful that you have a body that can move, that can breathe, that can feel and experience all this, and just be so grateful to have this life. You're so busy with enjoying that there is just no space for anything else.
Yeah.
And I always, what I teach, I always do myself. So that's,
Well, there's all kinds of studies saying that what we teach is not what we do ourselves, and that we give much
yeah,
better advice than what we actually take ourselves. So that's actually it's actually quite
yeah,
difficult
yeah,
to practice what you preach. It's actually quite difficult to tell
absolutely.
people not to get frustrated and then actually embody like not getting frustrated yourself. It's very difficult.
I agree. I think as teachers, what we need to do is listen to ourselves a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always teach with also listening to myself and taking inner notes. Is that something I need to focus on more? That's something, because as you're saying, we're so invested in giving supporting others and giving advice that sometimes we lose ourselves in the process. So I think when we teach, when we listen to what we're saying, that's very helpful for us too. Yeah.
Yeah. And you teach yoga?
Sort of. I did. I did. And then I kind of, it was a bit, how can I say this? Um, People started to say it's not yoga what I teach. That's how it started.
Mhm.
Because in yoga you have things like we have everywhere in life levels, competition, who can do headstand and all that. And I never allowed that into my classes. I never wanted any competition. I wanted something where people can truly breathe and have and be free from all the things that hurt us in life. And that is competition, that is being hypercritical, that is pushing ourselves. We always have to do this in our jobs and everywhere else. And I thought, I want to create a space for people where we are free from all of that, where we can be more playful and more open and relax into whatever we bring to the table. And so people started to say, listen, that's not yoga, because yoga has beginner levels, and then you can do this, and then you have advanced level. And so we stopped calling it yoga. And I have to admit, I also started to develop my own flows and my own movements, because I was more interested in sharing something that is truly healthy for the body. Like a lot of things that we dancers do, things on all fours, that is very good for your back and strengthens your core. That's not very yoga-esque, like triangle and all that. And I just kicked out all the complicated stuff, all the lotus poses. I never taught those. Because I thought I want to do something that is truly everybody can do, and it's very healthy for everyone, no matter if it's a 90-year-old person or if it's an athlete. So, and then we stopped calling it yoga, and we just called it the name of our company. And we said, listen, we're all about two things: health and happiness. So that's what you get when you come to our classes. Yeah.
It's so interesting how, the relief of the pressure and the relief of the desire to push yourself often results in more progress than when you are pushing yourself. I mean, if anyone has been following you on social media, has seen that your progress has been tremendous. You're a beautiful dancer. You have incredible technique. You have beautiful feet and articulation and posture, and you work your point shoes with detail and with patience. And it's all from a place of kindness and curiosity and gratitude and enjoyment. Whereas we get such a message that the only way to get that is by yelling or pushing or forcing or embarrassing or humiliating or any of those words. And it's so stark in ballet. And I'm so used to it in ballet that I'm always shocked to hear that it exists outside of ballet, because I'm so used to it. I can't imagine yoga, which to me seems like such a place where you wouldn't have any of that, having this sort of thing too. And it's just like incredible. I think a lot of times that mindset gets a bad rap, that you won't go anywhere, or you won't get any better, or that it's not going to work. But it's like, you are living proof that it works. You're living proof that that method and that mindset can lead you to actually make it far enough to make amazing progress and to make beautiful progress. So it's just, I mean, you're a really beautiful dancer, Susanne, and your progress is incredibly inspiring.
My gosh, I'm having goosebumps. I
Oh,
don't know what to say. Thank you so much. Thank you. But I totally I hear you, because I used to be very different. I used to be very, very hard on myself when I was a lot younger than now. But at one point, and I was a complete mess, health-wise, when I was 18. I'm a lot healthier and fitter and stronger and more flexible now than those 20 plus many years ago. But I had this moment where I realized that, exactly as you're saying, this pushing yourself. We always think that I need to push myself to go somewhere. And I did that too. I always pushed myself, and I had a lot of physical troubles, and I wanted to get rid of all those. And I was so tense that when I bent forward, standing, bending down, trying to reach the floor, I could not reach my kneecaps. I couldn't. No joke, sadly. So I started stretching and all that. And I thought, oh, I want to lay my upper body onto my legs. I want to be so flexible. And I was pushing myself, and nothing moved, nothing at all. And then just I don't know where I heard, I think on TV, a documentary or something, they said, well, the bone structure in everybody is different. So it could be that your upper thigh bone is twisted or formed in a certain way that you can never like fold completely. And I thought, wow, maybe that's me, maybe I have these thigh bones, and no, whatever I do, I can never lay down my upper body on my legs. And I thought about that in the stretch, and then I thought, okay, maybe that's me. And I remember I closed my eyes and I just accepted that. And I stopped pushing myself and I just relaxed. And for the first moment or first time ever in my life, I started to enjoy the stretch, and I thought, oh, that feels so nice. And I will never go down completely, but it's okay. And then something strange happened. Something bumped onto my forehead. And at the first moment, I was like, what was that? And then I opened my eyes, and what bumped my forehead were my kneecaps.
Oh my God.
My body completely kind of released into that,
Oh,
and I fell over my legs. I did it sitting down. And that was this huge revelation to me, that pushing myself actually makes myself so tense that I closed so many doors where I could improve and progress. It's I was standing in my own way, basically. And that's a concept that I find everywhere, not just with movement, whatever it is, in the head, when I do pirouettes and I'm like, I have to get this one right. It's never gonna work. It's never gonna work. But recently, Tom said something, my husband said something, and I was so happy, and I was, yay! And I did a pirouette out of joy, and I did a double pirouette. I've never done that before, and I landed softly. I was like, oh my gosh. So that is what joy does.
mhm.
But also, pressure and pushing ourselves is what often stands in our way. So yeah, I always try to just, when I feel it coming up, like I said, I'm protecting my home. Ballet is my home. And I would never invite guests that are being harsh with me, or something. If you imagine it like your home, who would you invite in? Who
Yeah.
would you say, okay, come on in, let's have a coffee or a tea, you sit down. Would you like to stay for the night? You would never let pressure or judgment or negativity, negative thoughts, negative self-talk. You would never invite those guys in, right? You would close the door and be like, no. And so that's what I always try to do. Just make this conscious choice. What is useful and what isn't? And then deciding whom of those guys I'm giving space.
I always say your pirouettes can smell your fear. And I think everything
Yeah,
really can.
yeah,
I think other
yeah,
people can. I think animals
yeah,
can. I
yeah,
think your own
yeah,
conscious can. I think
yes,
your own abilities can definitely smell your fear. Like you were saying, your hamstrings could smell it, and it was creating so much tension that you couldn't stretch at all. And so it's so interesting how in that moment you turned, the joy was so big that, as you said, there's no room for the fear and there's no room for the uncertainty or the ink or the push or the whatever
yeah,
it is. And it's so tough for people to release that. And for me teaching, focusing in on adults, I don't really know too much about how children learn ballet. It's not who I study. I mean, I've taught a few kids over the years, but it's really not who I like look at and study on a daily basis. And with adults, so much of what I see is that they resist doing something or trying something because they feel it's not how it should be, or it's not
yeah,
how it should feel, or like, oh, it looks very easy. How come it feels more difficult? Or like it should look like this, or it should look like that, or they feel like it's a certain thing that they've imagined that they feel like they have to create something differently. Like when I lift my elbow up, it feels like I'm hunching over, and it's like, well, but you are straight, right? So there's like this funny sense of how things look versus how they
mhm,
feel that I think often holds us back. And stretching looks like you're pushing, and like working looks like you're pushing. But I think in so many scenarios it's actually just accepting and breathing and releasing and relaxing and allowing and flowing, and it's like all those words that actually create the progress. I don't Do you find a similar thing?
yeah, absolutely. I think, just like you're saying, when you're a teacher, you're kind of a mirror for people.
Yeah.
Because actually, even when you're looking at an actual mirror and you see yourself differently.
Naturally.
And when the teacher like you comes in and says, look, your back is perfectly straight. I do this a lot too. I actually tell people, your back is straight, your shoulders are down, you're fine. And then this is very reassuring for a student because they trust you. And I think what you're doing, Julie, is you're just by the way you are and you're sharing your story and the way you're teaching, I think you're giving this gift to your students, to your groups, that is non-judgment. So you're giving them feedback and honest feedback, and that is important too, because if the back is round, you're not helping anyone when you tell them it's straight. So
No.
it might not be easy to hear when you're saying, listen, your back isn't really straight, but of course it is, because then they can work on that and they know, okay, that's something I need to work on. And then you're there to support and give advice how to do that. But also, you're just non-judgmental, meaning you look at your students and you can really see this in every fiber of your being. And that's why you're such a wonderful teacher, that you just look at your students with so much love and not judgmental, because you could look at them differently, like, yeah, that doesn't look good or something, but you always see the potential.
Mm,
And I do this as a teacher. I think that's the one of the key factors that we can give to our students, that we see the potential
yeah.
that our students maybe can't see yet.
Hmm.
But if you have someone who looks at you with nothing but love and support and seeing this potential and then sharing that, that's an amazing gift, because I know for me as a student, that helps me a lot when somebody looks at me and wants nothing to but help me and doesn't judge me.
Hmm.
And I think that's the space we can create for people to just fall out of periods without feeling stupid, because I,
Yeah.
I do a lot of balance with people too. And I always say, okay, when I can feel the atmosphere tensing up
Yes.
and everybody's really serious, then I'm like, okay, let's everybody fall out on purpose
Yeah.
and just see how it feels. And then maybe we can allow ourselves to have a good laugh. Like when we were kids and we fall, it was so much fun that we fall again and again and again and again. And then, we can always make this decision. And I always share this. When you fall out of your balance, period, or whatever, is it helpful? Is it useful when you judge yourself, when you go like, oh, damn, I can do that, and oh, I'm so bad at this? Is it useful? Is it helping you? If yes, you can go on, continue doing it. But if not, if you find yourself, struggling even more, then why not let go of this concept? Why not find a different reaction that actually is more useful? Like, try to laugh. Just try it once. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it ever again. But if you fall out and you have a good laugh and you have a bit of fun, then you have that.
Hmm.
And if you enjoy that, keep going, keep doing it. If not, just leave it behind. You don't have to take this advice, but try it. Try different reactions and see what is useful for you. What is something where you're like, oh, okay, that actually helps me, or that makes me happier, and that doesn't make me frustrated. And just be playful and find something that is just more fun than being frustrated.
Which is not fun almost ever.
It's not so much fun though.
It's so interesting about training reactions like that you were just mentioned in there, that you're training or like trying to give yourself a different way to react to a situation. And I think, having gotten adopted our latest rescue dog, Rosie, we've had her for almost 1 year. Yeah, maybe by the time this episode comes out, it'll be 1 year.
Oh
But the
gosh.
beginning was so tough with Rosie. It was so tough. Like she's a big, powerful dog, and she loves to bite and she loves to jump. And so she could jump and bite your bicep, and she could jump and bite your forearm. And she didn't know about light touches. So I would just be bruised and cut. And, the advice is to turn around away from the dog, and she would just jump and bite your hamstring or bite your calf. I mean, she was just like
wild dog, like totally wild. I can't believe that they would just give this dog out for free. Like, I mean, I understand the shelter
Wow.
thing, but it's like no information about what to do with this dog, nothing, right? So we keep the leash on her. We take to YouTube to like learn how to train this dog, right? And
Wow.
so much of it is like training the reaction to situations. And it was fascinating to watch her journey through this reaction because, when you start to understand where this reaction is coming from, how it got there, right? A 4-year-old dog, about four, I don't know, we don't know exactly how old she is, but about four, they're not a puppy. So they have some ingrained reactions, right? Same thing with teaching an adult ballet. You've got some ways that you stand, you've got some ways that you move, you've got some preconceived notions about yourself and about ballet and about, how things should be, right? And same with like this, this kind of older dog kind of comes to you with some ideas about the world, right?
Right.
And over the course of the months now, it's been about a year. She's a very good dog now. She's a very good dog now. And it turns out she just wanted a lot of attention. She just wanted a lot of attention that makes her extremely happy. And when she's happy, she celebrates with her mouth. And it's like, but that's not how we need to celebrate. Like we can celebrate in like another way. That's not celebratory for anybody here. But in the beginning, of course, we don't trust her. She doesn't trust us. We have another dog at home and all of this, right? And so first with her, you had to learn what you could even do. Like you had to learn what you could even do to get her to calm down. Because normally people say give the dog treats, but she celebrates the treats with biting. And it's like, well, that's not helpful. So we had to learn that you can't even give her a treat as a celebration because it's too much for her. It's too over threshold. So you have to like, even when you're trying to learn to train a different reaction in yourself, if your reaction is so big and so massive and so frustrating, you have to like give time to calm down. And that's what we learned with her. If we could get her to sit still for seconds, minutes, she could calm herself down. But we had to get her to sit in one place. And then we taught her to celebrate with sitting. Like over time, somehow she got the picture that when she's happy and wants something, she should sit. So now she
Wow.
like gets happy and she sits, but it's like the most aggressive sit you've ever seen. She sits like staring at you with these eyes, like, did you not see me sitting? Like, look
Oh
at
my
me sitting. But it's been a huge, massive journey of watching her change from like she believes she can't get what she wants another way, right? She clearly believes that this is the only way to get what she wants, or she's afraid and she's reacting in this way. But there's some really deep stuff that's causing her to behave in this way. There's some really deep either need or celebration, right? We're not exactly, I mean, who knows exactly what goes on in those little brains, but you had to like peel back each layer of like show her we will give you love if you
Mhm.
do not bite my hand. Like, we need
Mhm.
to teach her a new way to seek out the attention that she's looking for, right? Like
Mhm.
that type of retraining was so fascinating to watch. And I find
Mhm.
it so interesting with adults, something like pirouettes or getting on the wrong foot in petite allegro, that will really get people going.
Mhm.
Falling out of a balance, being
Mhm.
inflexible, these things where you have deep-seated like shame or fear or a really big goal, I think you really it takes a while to retrain that reaction when that reaction can be so desperate in a sense, like you really want this dream and you're so afraid you can't get it, or like you really want this and you're so afraid your body won't be able to do it, or whatever that mindset is around it. It can be so tightly held that it's very difficult to like break through that and show them like you will get what you want.
Yeah.
You can get what you want. Here's how you can work towards it. Here are some other ways to do it. It takes like you have to be patient as a teacher too, and as a student yourself to be patient, to let that take months to unfold, to like let that mental process even take months to unfold.
Yeah.
um I've gone on for quite a while. I'm curious where what experience you have with it, with any of that type of thing. I know there's so much of the mind, the mental work in
Yeah.
yoga and in movement and all of that. So I'm curious what you've experienced, if you have any other perspectives to offer on what I've experienced in training Rosie and working with people.
What you said is so true and so valuable because at the base of every negative emotion is always fear. So when we're frustrated, we're afraid we're not enough. The teacher will judge us, or we won't reach our goals, our dreams, or whatever. So the base of everything we feel is negative is fear. And to know that, especially as a teacher, can help us to just support our students even better. And what I found was that many people have to get used to being treated in a kind way.
Ooh.
That was very interesting for me and also kind of shocking, to be honest,
Hmm.
because I had people who had been doing yoga for years, and they came to my class and they didn't know me or my style, and they stood in front of me, honestly, almost shaking and saying, I can't do this or that pose, and I'm so sorry. If you don't
Yeah.
want me in your class, just tell me and I will leave. And I was like, honestly, really shocked, to hear that. I mean, we're talking about something we do in our spare time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not a life and death situation. And um, I found this a lot, that people were actually, they needed time to adjust, that there was a space where no one judges them, where they are truly welcome and appreciated for just being here. So, what I started doing at the beginning of the class, I always take a moment and let everybody know, thank you for being here, and just, feel whatever you bring to the table today in your body, in your mind, and let just everything be as it is. Sure, there is stuff you don't like, and if there is, just say interesting instead of oh damn, right? Because it's still part of you, right? It has value because it is part of you, and you're a valuable human being, so everything you bring to the table is valuable and wants to be seen and wants to be heard. So if you have a tension in your body, that's something that wants to be heard and addressed. And when you push it away and you judge it, you're just enforcing this pattern. So when you're instead, I love the word interesting. When you're saying, oh, interesting, my shoulders. Well, that's not really awesome. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
And then you're just, I can see people taking a breath of release when you just take this pressure off to always be perfect and fit and flexible and strong and looking good while doing stuff. And I tell them, I don't care what you look like. I don't care if it looks pretty or not. What counts is, what does it feel like? What counts is what cannot be seen. I mean, that's difficult in ballet for
Yeah.
because we want
So
it to look great,
aesthetics.
but exactly. But still, how it makes you feel is still so much more important.
Yeah.
Because even if it looks pretty, if you're in pain, it's not great for you. So I think just switching this, we're always focusing on how it looks and what do other people think about this and that or whatever, and just taking the switch and saying, okay, what do I bring to the table? That's all part of me. Something is interesting, something is great.
Mhm.
And I will work with whatever is here now
Yeah.
and just deal with it in the best way I can today. And um, I think it helps people to see themselves from a different perspective sometimes, because when I do let's say I do a stretch and um like something like happy baby or something like hip openers, they're always well, some people are fans, some really aren't. And I love to just tell little stories while I'm teaching, especially when people are stretching, because there is time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, if let's say you're so flexible in your hips that you can throw your legs behind your head. I just go over the top, because to just tell a story that people would like to hear, maybe, hopefully. And then let's say you can do that. What changes in your life? What actually changes? Just think it through. How important is it really? You still have bad hair days. your,
Oh,
your kids will, yeah, aw.
that's bad
Your
news.
kids, that's really bad news, isn't it? Your kids will not tidy their rooms by themselves. Your family and your friends will not love you more. And if your friends love you more when you can throw your legs behind your head, maybe you want to think about your choice of friends.
Yeah.
But maybe you can love yourself like you love your loved ones. You know, if you have your husband, Julie, or everybody who's listening, your loved ones, if they could do great, crazy pirouettes, if they could do, I don't know, 5 times and or the what is it, 27 Sweat.
The record, yeah,
Yeah.
32 sweat days.
Yeah, yeah, 32, exactly. Yeah. What if your loved ones could do that? Would you love them more? You wouldn't, because it doesn't matter. And I think when we remind ourselves, I mean, for me, ballet is like a huge center in my life, but I still want to have some perspective. You know, it doesn't diminish my love for ballet when I say it's not, it doesn't matter for everything else in my life. It doesn't matter if I can do a period or not,
Yeah,
because my husband will not love me more and I will still have bad hair days and all that. And but it's still, I practice periods and I want to be able to do them, but it just helps to not push this on such a high, into such heights that you feel like you can't ever reach it. And it's this kind of suffocating pressure that you're placing on yourself. So I think just this switch in your head, how important is it really? And when you can have a good laugh, that it's not that important, that's the moment when things open up, that's the moment when things start to work. And when you start to have joy again, because dancing is joy, isn't it?
yeah,
And I
very
think
much
we
so.
want to we want to hold on to that.
And especially since, fear, as we talked about, has such a grip on the negative feelings and emotions. And when you have that grip, you don't have the flexibility to be curious enough to find actual solutions. Because when you are presented with a big problem, you need to be very open, you need to be very curious, you need to be very investigative, you need to be looking at all the options. So if you do have a big problem, like how am I going to get my pirouettes to work, or how am I going to get my legs to turn out? That's a big problem. It's very
Yeah.
complex. It's very difficult. It's different for every person. There's no one size fits all, especially in adulthood. There's way no one size fits all, because your life is so different by the time you're an adult. So there's absolutely no one size fits all solution for it. You need to be
Yeah.
very creative, very curious, very open to new ideas. And if you're afraid, none of that stuff is even on the table as a possibility.
Yeah, yeah. I think curiosity is a main thing. Curiosity, playfulness, I think that can save us adults.
Yes. The word interesting, I think the word interesting is what opens the door to curiosity.
Yeah.
Because you say interesting, and then what comes after the word interesting? I wonder is usually what comes after the
Yeah,
word interesting.
yeah,
It's like a
yeah,
naturally connected. I don't know if it is in another language, but certainly in English, you say
absolutely.
the word interesting and then I wonder comes next. So you say interesting, I
Absolutely.
wonder, and then insert like next
Yeah,
statement there, right? And that's
yeah,
like, oh, interesting. I wonder what happens if I'm in this shape. Oh, interesting. I
yeah,
wonder what would happen if I did this. Or like, oh,
yeah,
interesting. I wonder what that person would, what their concept is about this. Or like, I think that is the
yeah.
only way you can get the solution to a problem that has no one direct answer.
Mhm. Exactly. And as you're saying, as adults, our bodies are the way they are because when you're a kid, you can still shape your bones,
Yep.
but as an adult, you can't anymore. So you have to work with whatever is there. And
You don't even
when
know
you
it's there. You don't even know what's
exactly, you
there.
have no idea. Yeah. You have no idea where does your splits end or not or
You
something.
don't
You
know.
have no idea. Yeah.
No
Your
idea.
bones do, but they won't tell you tell you that.
They'll only tell you if you listen very nicely. They'll only tell
Exactly.
you if you listen very nicely and you don't make them shy and you don't pressure
Yeah.
them and you don't
Yeah.
hurt them. That's the only way
Exactly.
that they're going to tell you where their
Exactly.
limits are. If you,
Yeah.
they won't tell you any other way. They get very shy.
Exactly. But I think that the way you're doing it, I wonder, is so important. And I think, as you're saying, it opens up all those doors. And that's, I think, where we can kind of utilize our adult mind
Yeah.
because kids, they're more playful. They don't care too much whether they fall or not. They don't compare that much. I mean, they do, but not in a way that we adults do. And when we're in the class, I've never been to a class, but I imagine, and I know from my own classes, people look
Yes,
around and,
absolutely.
oh, she can do it and he can do it and
Yeah.
whatever, and I can't. So I often just invite them to not look around.
Yep.
But if we do, I mean, we do. But then when you come in and you say, okay, I wonder, just try this. When you're telling your students, just try this. I wonder what happens when I engage here or there or live there or whatever. And then you're introducing a completely different game.
Yeah.
right? You're taking their minds off, and then something else is on the table. And then we can utilize our adult way of thinking, just
Yeah.
being logical, being structured, having plan A and plan B and plan C. And that's, I think, it's very, very important when we teach adults
Yes.
to meet ourselves where we are and not, like you're saying, you can't teach adults like you teach kids. And that's a big advantage when we learn as adults, because we're logical and we like to think a lot.
For better or for worse.
Exactly. But if we do, we want to use it in a good way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, when you think about two things like meeting yourself where you are, I think one of the hard parts about being an adult is that you don't know where you are or you wish you were somewhere else. I think those are two things that make it very difficult for people to meet themselves where they are, where you think, I wish I already was further along, or if I had started sooner, I wouldn't be in this place, or whatever scenario it is that makes you deny where you are, and then getting people to gently come to see where they are and then go be able to get where they're going. Because I think the first time anyone watches themselves on video is like, oh my God, that can't be where I am. Like that
Mm.
cannot be what I look like doing this. Like that
Yeah.
first time you either see a photo of yourself dancing or you watch yourself on video dancing. Really, honestly, that's the first time you're looking at yourself with where you are. I mean, you aren't exactly looking at yourself objectively because you have all your own opinions about your body and your whatever.
Mm.
But that's the first time I think for adults often where they're actually confronted with quote unquote where they are. And I think
Mm.
that can be very difficult to accept. Like in the story you were telling about stretching, like to accept that maybe your thigh bones aren't meant to do this, or like whatever it is. I think that because we don't know where we are. We don't know where we are when we're starting as an adult. You don't all start at zero. So you don't actually even know your own starting point. And sometimes accepting your own starting point can be kind of painful and difficult. So people don't want to meet themselves where they're at all the time because they don't want to know where they are, or they know where they are and it's too painful to see where they are. Have you experienced this too?
Mhm. Well, watching myself on video, I experience it all the time.
Yeah. Yes. So to me
Yeah.
too.
Um, it's actually, I honestly find it very interesting. Again, I'm using the logical mind to not judge, but to just really look at my leg, and I'm like, okay, that really felt completely straight.
Yeah.
And no, well, the camera has a different opinion on it. And or oh, that felt so high and it wasn't, or the elbow felt so lifted, but there's still room to lift more. So I find that when I look at it logically and analytically, it's not painful.
Yeah.
It's actually just pure information. And I have to admit, I'm a pretty logical, structured person. So I find it actually really, I like it. I like everything that's logical, that excites me.
That
So
explains the ballet fascination.
I guess. I honestly, yes. I
Yes.
think a lot of people are
Yep.
very logical, very detailed oriented.
Otherwise, this
Um,
would be awful.
Exactly, exactly. I know that when I tell my husband some little detail that I managed to do or something, I can see that I'm losing him in the process when I'm describing all the details and all that.
Save it for your ballet friends, please. Thank
Patience.
you.
So that's a world on our own, yeah. But I think that logic is actually a great savior to
Yeah.
not get frustrated, and then we can look at ourselves in the video again, I think, with more love. We can practice that, it doesn't have to be ex- just the next video you watch, you just love everything about yourself.
Yeah.
That's not what I mean. It's just that you look at someone who is learning, and imagine when you look at yourself in the video, imagine you would look at a friend and the friend would show you the video and you would just go over the video and go like, oh, look, oh, that worked really well. Look at your pointed toes. That is fantastic. Oh, look, here, he should have been straight, but it's not. Maybe next time, focus on that more. Right? What advice, what feedback would you give someone you really love? You would be kind. You would be honest, but also you would be kind.
Mhm.
And you would never look at the video and go like, oh gosh, how stupid are you that you
Yeah.
still haven't got that. But we talk to ourselves like that. And that is something that I always share, because you live with yourself 24/7. And the question is, if the way you talk to yourself is that a person you want to be with 24/7? Because would you want to be with a person who picks on you, who brings you down, who always tells you everything that you don't like it about this person? Would you live with them? Would you allow them to be next to you and chat and talk and and always get you down? You wouldn't. You would kick this person out sooner or later. So I think we really want to practice to talk to ourselves in a way that we are a person we want to be around
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah, well, I think that over the past years, I've gone through this kind of journey of trying to speak to myself in a much better way, and it's been difficult. But I think for me, the most difficult piece that I struggle the most with letting go of is the fear that if I stop talking to myself like that, I won't get where I'm trying to go. So it's like,
Mhm,
again, that thing we were trying to train Rosie, like you can get what you want, and there is another way to get it. This is one
mhm,
way that you could maybe get it. Do you like
mhm.
it? Is it working for you? Right? Like those questions. And it's like you could answer yes to it. You could sometimes
Yeah.
answer yes to it because it's like, yeah, I like where I am. Did I get there because of this? Or did I get there because of another reason? Like going through that, it took me a while kind of debating with myself and trying to understand like I am happy with where I got, and I have gotten here with a harsh voice inside. So it's like if I let that go, what will
Mhm,
happen?
mhm,
It was that why I was successful? Was there another reason why I'm here? How am I going to get to the next level? Because I don't think you
mhm.
ever, I mean, I never like you always have more things. Like you're saying with fear, I always have more things I want to achieve and get to. And so
Yeah,
it's been
yeah.
for me a several year journey of learning new ways to talk to myself and learning that it will be okay if I change the narrative upstairs. And I think so much of what has helped kind of solidify that for me is just all of the benefit of watching it work for my students,
Mhm,
because I see people come into my classes and I see them come in with, like you were describing, like the shaking, the worry, the apologies, the profuse apologies that like, oh my God, I can't do this. I'm so bad. I have all these permanent bad habits. I'm a terrible dancer. I have all this break. I took a break for these years. I can't touch my toes anymore. Whatever. People come in with so many concerns and fears and worries. And you see
mhm,
that as you start to change the narrative with them and as they start to settle into it and grow, that they become amazing dancers. They become amazing technicians. They become beautiful artists. They let themselves experiment and play and learn and grow. And the most important thing is that they're motivated enough to come back, because that
mhm,
negative self talk can make you leave. Like you just like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it from you. So I'm not going to go to ballet class today because it's too stressful to hear these thoughts. Like I'm not going to go because I don't want to hear it. So I think for
mhm,
me, kind of watching it works so well for so many people who I've gotten to work with for 3, 4 years now. It's like you can really see that the proof is in the pudding. Like you can be successful if you lay off yourself. Like you can be successful if you're a cheerleader instead of a
mhm,
drill sergeant. You can find
mhm,
motivation from the enjoyment of the thing, and that can carry you as far as the motivation from the fear already carried you, because the motivation was from another place, and you can change. Like shifting where you build that inner fire from is so scary because you're just afraid you're going to lose everything that you built, and you won't be able to build the next thing if you let it off, if you let off the gas.
Yeah, I love that with be the cheerleader for yourself. I don't know why we all have this idea that fear is a stronger motivator than joy.
It's immediate. I mean, it's immediate. There is
Yeah,
that. It is
yeah,
very powerful and it is very immediate. So I do think,
absolutely,
yeah, it's
absolutely.
if you want something from someone and you threaten them, they're going to give it to you
Yeah,
right away. It's very
yeah.
quick, but I think we have this idea that it is the log that burns the fire.
Yeah, the only thing that motivates us, absolutely. I mean, fear has its place in life.
Yeah,
It's important
keeps us alive.
in some cases, absolutely, yes. But we just I think like you're saying, as a teacher, You could yell at your students,
Yeah.
or you could be motivating and positive. So, what will your students choose?
Right.
Who will stick with you? Those who feel good around you. So, we can treat ourselves the same way. And I think the why we don't want to, or we doubt whether or not we can let go of this negative self-talk is simply because we're used to it. It's a habit, and habits die screaming. We feel like we can't let this go because it got me to where I am. But what if I got there in spite of all this negative self-talk? What if I stop that? What will I unleash? What potential is still within me that is scared to come out because of all the negative talk? So I think at least if you're scared of letting go of talking to yourself in a negative way, do it as an experiment. Do it just once and see what happens. And then next week you do it again and see what happens and how it makes you feel. I think it helps when you remind yourself you don't have to make a decision now and stick to it for the rest of your life. You just make a decision now. What do I want to do today? How do I want to treat myself today? And then I'll see how it goes. And tomorrow I will change my opinion and try something else. So this playfulness, this curiosity, this creativity that you were mentioning, I think this gives us the freedom to just experiment with different techniques.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, when somebody says, I need a bit of negative self-talk to motivate myself, well, go for it. If it makes you happy, I mean, nobody hears it, so
Yeah, you can do it. You can do it if you need to. Well, they kind of hear it because it comes out, in its own way
yeah,
out your pores.
exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I think there comes a time when you have to look at it and say, is it useful? And you have to be able to honestly answer like, yes, and it can be useful another way too. And what's more important to you? Like, I think you have to also say, like, what's more important to you? It's like, do I want to feel this way all the time? No.
Mhm.
Okay, then maybe try something else. If it's working, because that negative self-talk is useful. Like, it is useful in many ways. Like, it does, if you have it, it kind of it is currently your only way to
Yeah.
motivate yourself, right? You
Mhm.
don't know of another way. You haven't practiced another way. You don't know of another way to get yourself to do something except for a deadline that you've procrastinated to,
Mm.
or somebody yelling at you, or somebody forcing you to do it, or an accountability buddy, or whatever. Like, the only way you know to motivate yourself is through this sort of forcing, pushing kind of way. And so it's
Mhm.
very scary. And you need to like build that trust in yourself and build that like other way. You have to practice another way to get yourself to do something and say, like, I'm doing this because I want to do it. Right. Which I
Mhm.
think is like it's so tough to build that trust. Like, I think, for me, I did an experiment a few years ago where, like, for me, sometimes like responding to emails can get a little bit stressful because there's sometimes difficult conversations in there. There's sometimes, tricky things where someone's canceling and you're losing a student who you loved. And so I
Mhm.
developed kind of some angst around going in there. Right. And
Mhm.
so I decided in this whole journey, I was like, I don't want to reply. I don't want to feel this way when I reply to emails. I want to be so grateful that I have these customers. I want to be so happy that I'm part of these people's lives. They wouldn't want me to feel this way writing to them. Like, I don't want this anymore. And so I felt bad at the time, but looking back, it was very important to give myself the freedom that you were talking about. I literally told myself, you cannot write an email to somebody if you are feeling that way. Wait until you're feeling good. And it was like 7 days that I didn't write to anybody because I was like, you will not, do not write in this state. Wait until you can feel calm and relaxed about it. And like, it was in that time that I saw that nothing bad happened. I could not respond to people for 7 days. And the people who needed something wrote to me a second time and followed up and said, hey, can you get to this sooner? Right. Like,
Mhm.
nothing happened. And I gave myself the freedom to say, like, oh, okay, this isn't urgent. I don't have to feel a certain way when I'm doing this. It doesn't have to be like a push yourself to get it done really fast. It doesn't have to be any of these things. It's just communicating with people about their dance journey. It's nothing
And deaf.
like, it was just like it was just like a broke open, but I didn't feel that I had the freedom to experiment because I thought I had some idea about how a successful business should respond to emails in a certain
Mhm.
period of time. What if I have a bad response time? What if, you get a
Mhm.
bad review because you don't write back to people, or like whatever
So if
stories you
you're
make up, right? Like, whatever stories you make up, it's like, really, no one noticed. They emailed you and they are busy and they forgot that they emailed you. So like, nobody, but it
yeah.
had to, we feel we don't have freedom to experiment. We don't have freedom to experiment. You have to do something to show
Mm.
yourself that you have the freedom to try something different and be like, no, I'm totally free to try and experiment and let myself fall. I'm okay. I'm okay if I fall. I'm okay if I don't reply. I'm okay if these things don't happen. And then you
Mm.
feel free. Like you said, you're okay if you can't ever touch if your forehead won't ever touch you. Like, I'm okay. And then it did.
Yeah, I love that. You know, I'm exactly the same. I had to learn this exactly like you because I was always so, okay, I need to reply
Yep.
instantly.
Yep.
And this is urgent and I have to respond right now. And then I also, but it was really hard to not respond
Yes.
immediately, to give myself this space and then always check in. Are you ready? Are you ready? Nope. And then a day goes by and another day goes by, and you already have this guilty conscience to not be there for everyone. And that's a biggie for a teacher who really loves their job and feels this responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
As wonderful as the job is, there is a lot of responsibility and a lot of weight on our shoulders, and we
Yeah.
have to give ourselves space, absolutely, because like you're saying, you have this idea what a good business should look like. You know, emails need to be dealt with on the same day and all that. I'm so with you, but then when we don't reply immediately, nothing bad happens, and that's something we need to remember as well. I'd also do teacher trainings, and my teachers always go like, what if I'm not, what if I'm tired the day I'm supposed to teach? What if I don't feel so positively myself, and I have a negative mindset or whatever? Can I even teach that day? And then I always say, listen, you're human, we're all human, and it's fine. I mean, my classes are sometimes we're all are laughing and they're full of energy, and sometimes they're very quiet. Just whatever is authentic in that moment. I just trust that this is what is needed, that, like you said, the trust thing
Yep.
is a
Yep.
big thing. And I learned to trust myself with whatever I can bring to the class. I invite my students to bring whatever they bring, and I will accept it and we will work with it. But also, I can bring to the class whatever I can offer today,
Yep.
and sometimes it's more energy and sometimes it's less. But that's okay. And I think it's important for students to see there is an actual human being.
Mhm.
I can see maybe Julie is tired today, and or maybe she's full of energy today, and I can see that. And
Yeah.
I think it's important that we see each other, truly, really see each other. Um, and then this interaction is a beautiful one,
Hmm.
because when I see my teacher is tired, I kind of I can feel my own energy rising,
Yeah.
because I want to pick them up, and I've had this so many times when maybe I was a little sick and my energy was low and there was a lot of things I should be doing, but I had to teach the class or whatever, and I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot make it half through. I don't have the energy. I can barely get up from my chair or something. And that were the classes where my students were so full of energy,
Yes.
and they carried me through.
Yeah.
I was my impression. And I just needed time to allow that.
Hmm.
Because as a teacher, of course, you need to have the plan, what we are supposed to do today, of
Yeah.
course, but you can still allow your students to carry you too,
Yeah.
because this is a group effort. And I always love it when we just, that it's not, there is the teacher and there's the students and there's the one who knows everything and there are the people who don't know anything. So I always tell my students, you already know, your body already knows, your heart already knows. We just want to give them all space so you can listen.
Hmm.
So I teach a lot of trust, because
Hmm.
I rely a lot on trust. As I said, when I'm about to teach and I feel so not ready, then I just take a breath and I'm like, okay, I'll just trust that whatever shows up is best for all of us,
Yep.
because I don't know what my students need today. We'll
You don't.
find out together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you think as a teacher, we often think that they always need a perfect class, and
Mhm.
they often don't need a perfect class. They often really appreciate seeing an imperfect class because it gives them permission to show up imperfectly. So if you as a teacher are only ever showing up perfectly and you're telling them it's okay to show up imperfectly, do they believe you if they've never seen you with a hair out of place? Are they going to believe you if they've never seen you forget a combination or let your elbow drop once or make a mistake or be tired? They're not going to really believe you that you're allowed in that space in an imperfect way if you don't allow yourself in that space. Because truly, if you don't allow yourself to show up that way, are you really allowing them to show up that way? They don't feel the permission. And I think that they often really appreciate being able to carry you because they feel, I find that students feel, and I feel this way about all of my teachers too, they give me so much that anytime I have the opportunity to give something back to them, I'm like so grateful for that opportunity because it can often feel like an imbalanced relationship. Like they give. And like as a giver myself, it's like feels good when I can give back to my teacher because I know how much they put into it and I know how much love and care they put into it. And it's nice when you can give them something back because they don't often need anything from you in class. And so you have no opportunity for an exchange. And when you do, it's like you said, it's quite nice and you learn something new about each other. And it really changes the dynamic of the relationship I see for
Mhm.
future classes when you have a day where you're like, guys, I can't remember anything. So I need you to remember these combinations because
Yeah,
my
yeah.
brain is like crazy. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes the students feel so good.
yeah,
As you're saying, you want to give back, you want to feel as a community, and
yeah,
want to feel seen and valuable as a member of this community. So when as a teacher you're not perfect, and none of us are, and that's great and that's fine, then you're giving the students space to be there.
yeah,
And I'm always telling my teachers that very often I have people who are like, "Oh, but what if I have tension in my shoulders? Shouldn't I be completely free from tension? Shouldn't I be stronger than everybody else?" And I always say, "Listen, the more trouble you had, the better, because you can understand those who have pain in their shoulders. I'm so grateful that I've had so many issues,
yeah,
and I was so tense."
yeah,
Um, because you didn't grow up with ballet. If you grew up with ballet from age 3 or something, then throwing your leg up into the air is no biggie for you.
yeah,
But you learned as an adult, and I think that's so amazing to see what you can do, and you can relate what it means to students to have their shoulders away from their ears, or a straight back. That sounds so simple, to a ballet person who has done 20 years of ballet when they're 25 or something.
yep,
I mean, a straight back, that's no biggie. And they don't know what I don't know, a rounded back does to your neck, to your shoulders, to your breathing, to your diaphragm. They can't relate.
right.
They have to learn what it means so they can help others. But if you've experienced it yourself, that's a value that you can give your students. So you can totally relate to all the aches and all the troubles,
Yeah.
and you know exactly how it feels. And then you can connect and you can help like no one else. So I think not being perfect as a teacher is perfect.
The irony of it, we all have to face it in some way, shape, or form that we are humans and that other humans want to connect with humans. Like people want to connect with each other, and that's all there is. That's really the key to it. I think that's what in so many ways brings us together through dance and through expression. It's another way to communicate with each other. And through teaching each other is a great way to communicate with each other. Like you learn so much about yourself and another by helping them with something, even more so than a conversation. Like in many ways, I feel like I know some of my students better than I know friends because I know how they react to challenges and I know how they react to hardships and I know how they react to inquiries and I know how they treat me when I'm in in difficult situations and I know how like we have I've seen them react to a lot of situations and they've seen me react to a lot of situations. So like in a sense that relationship is actually quite deep because you really are seeing each other in a lot of scenarios that other people in your life, maybe not even your family, would see you in.
Mhm. Absolutely. We're all in a very vulnerable place because we're
Yeah.
all learning, and we kind of challenge ourselves. We bring ourselves into stressful situations all the time. So, and when you're stressed, you can really see how people react.
Yeah.
And that's where you get to know everybody. So that's, I like you're saying, that's a very special connection between teachers and students, because we're always in a challenging place.
Right. Yeah. Well,
So,
it's for years, part of my interview process for hiring teachers has been to watch them take class.
mhm,
Because if you don't see how somebody can take class and you don't see them take class, it's hard to know how they're going to talk to themselves. Are they going to beat themselves up when they make a mistake? Are they going to be hard on themselves when they can't do something? And a lot of teachers haven't taken class in a while. So how are they going to meet themselves when they're not how they were in the past? How are they going to treat themselves? Because that's how they're going to treat my students. That's how they're going to treat the community of people who isn't 20 anymore, of people
mhm,
who used to be more fit than they are now, of people who used to be able to do more than they are now. And that same mindset and mentality, I think, is difficult to develop and to understand. But like how the teacher talks to themselves when they do things, I find very important to set the tone of the class. Because if the teacher gives a compliment, it's like, oh, I look so ugly today. And then the students hear that and they think, well, you look amazing. You must think I
mhm,
look awful. Like when the
mhm.
teacher puts
Yeah,
some judgment on themselves about how
yeah.
whatever they are, it's like,
Mhm,
oh, you must think I'm so bad if you think you're ugly, because me compared with you, like you
mhm.
must think so horribly of me. It's usually not what's actually going on, but that self-talk, I think, if it comes out loud, really does. Even a few comments can change
Yeah,
the nature of that whole relationship.
absolutely. Absolutely. We have to be very aware what we're saying. Actually, I'm a linguist, so language has always been my, I don't know, my passion.
Yeah.
And I've experimented a lot with language when I started to teach. So the way I teach is all verbal. I don't show anything, any
Mhm.
poses or anything, because I was way too shy to do that.
That's cute.
moving, moving in front of people. I was in my first class.
Yeah.
I was so shy that everybody was staring at me that I said, "Okay, everybody close their eyes."
Well, that's convenient. That's clever. That's thinking out of the box right there.
Yes. And it's
Stop
stuck.
looking at
We
me.
still do that. We still do that. I mean, it's also a good technique to block out all the visuals and
Right.
really be yourself and connect to yourself.
That's
But it
true.
actually started because I was so scared of everybody looking at me.
Oh
But
my
then
gosh,
I
I feel that.
I
That's
did
so good.
but then I didn't learn how to describe various movements. I learned to show them, to
Yeah.
demonstrate them, but I didn't want that because I always um, felt that they are comparing themselves to me. So as I do when I see somebody teaching, and
Yeah.
for ballet, it's very important, of course, but for something that is not a performance art, right? It doesn't matter how it looks.
Right.
So I stopped showing the poses and I wanted everyone to just be in this space with themselves without comparing your own body or flexibility or strength to somebody else's who is not doing the poses for the first or fifth time.
Right.
So I started to describe everything, and then I experimented, and it was a long learning period to find the right words to be completely on point.
Yep.
And I also, I found that there is always a way to describe something in a positive way. Like, for example, if we're saying, don't forget to breathe, could trigger someone. It's actually quite a lot of people I found out from feedback that they're like, oh, damn, I forgot again. I always forget. So I started to say, remember to breathe.
Mm.
And what happened was they were like, oh, yeah, we remembered. Cool. So the response was positive, and
Yeah.
it can be little words like this, just don't forget. And it's like, oh, shit, I forgot. Right?
Yeah. Right.
But remember to breathe, remember to engage your core,
Yeah.
right? And it's just this two words, two
Mhm.
different worlds.
Yeah.
And that is something that I focus on a lot. What word do I choose? What's the what does it trigger,
Yes.
kind of, you know? Um, I often say, just, I don't know, when we lie down and relax, and I'm always just, I sometimes don't even say relax. I'm just saying, just lie back, just lay there.
Yeah.
That's all. we're just hanging. That's all. And there's no pressure, because even when you say a beautiful word like relax, people are stressed out. I can't relax. That's the one thing I can't do. I'm always so tense, and when I'm telling people, we're just hanging. Just place your body in whatever is comfortable right now, and we'll just, pass some time here. And then boom, they fall asleep. And it's when you take away, it's pressure again. When you
Yeah.
take away the pressure, when let's say you can't fall asleep, and you're laying in your bed and I have to fall asleep tomorrow, it's such an important day. When somebody comes and tells you, you don't have to sleep, just close your eyes and just lay there. That's enough. You'll be fine tomorrow.
Yeah.
And when the pressure is gone, a minute later, the person will fall asleep.
Yeah.
So words have this immense power. And that's something that I kind of specialize on, to find ways to say things in a positive, motivating way that doesn't put pressure on people. And it's actually so interesting what little things can trigger fear or pressure.
Yeah.
And that's I find that very interesting.
I mean, the interesting thing about the words is how they just have a reaction. There's just an immediate reaction that's already been programmed by somebody else. You don't know who put that button there, but you pushed it, right? And it's like there's a button installed there, and you're like, oh, I guess people have that button. Like, okay, I guess that's a button that somebody could have. You don't know what buttons everyone
Yeah.
has, because they don't even know, because they didn't. I mean, you can't see; they're invisible. But
Mhm.
there's so many things, especially when I'm teaching ballet, that is so tough. And I try, sometimes I get some flack for this, but I try not to use any words that anybody has ever used to teach
Mhm.
ballet, because
Mhm.
people have an idea of what it means. And they have an idea what engage your core means, and they have an idea of what turn out their legs means, and they have an idea of if they can or can't do it, or if they will or won't be able to do it. As soon as you say the word turn out, people say, but my hip socket's face front. And it's like, okay, well, but we're not talking about that. We're just going to gently see if we can feel this muscle engage more. We're going to just gently rock the pelvis back and forth. We're just going to gently rotate the legs. And then all of a sudden they're turning out. But if you say turn out, then somebody, comes with the idea that whatever situation is that they believe about that thing. So it's like, how do you discuss the core without calling it the core? Because people are like, oh, I have a strong core. Oh, I have a weak core. And then the conversation around core just turns into a black and white situation, and not like, oh, I wonder what that feels like, or oh, I didn't know the diaphragm did that, or oh, I wonder what's going on with that vertebra, or like, oh, I wonder what's going on here. So it's like this exploration I find is so necessary, especially with people coming back to ballet from childhood training. I find it to be even more important, because it brings back these memories. Like you say, pick up your right foot, and people will have a panic moment, because
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
picking up the left foot when they were supposed to pick up the right foot, and they would have gotten yelled at for that. So even just telling people right or left foot can be really scary for people, or even telling them which corner to turn, or like, oh, wrong arm. Like those words can really
Yes.
be, I mean, and it's like they're correct, but they're not helpful in the words that you've been
Yeah.
using. Helpful.
Exactly.
They don't help
Exactly.
them figure out which arm, because then they're just like, literally you see them going back and forth both arms, panicking because
Yeah.
they just have lost it. And then
Absolutely.
you like, okay, calm, let's take this back a notch. Let's take this back.
Yeah.
Let's, let's
It's
try this
funny.
another approach.
Exactly. It's funny that you're saying this left, right? This is not just ballet. I have this in my classes a lot, because
Oh,
always want to do things right,
yes,
They want to learn, they want to do things the way they're meant to be, because they have a motivation. Maybe different from ballet. People who come to my classes maybe just want to be more flexible or stronger, or maybe have attention or whatever. So they all have their own motivation,
yep,
or they want to be more calm or whatever, and they want to get there. So they want to do things right.
yep,
I never say left or right. I always say the leg closer to the hand, or in
yep,
ballet, the leg closer to the bar or
yep,
further away from the bar. I usually never say left or right. And it's always, for me, it's more relaxing too,
yep.
because
And you're like
it's easy
mirroring it
for
for
me as
people.
well.
It's confusing.
Exactly. So you even have often, you have this mirrored image or something, so left and right, and so we were making it easier for us as teachers and for the students.
Yeah,
Um, and so, yeah, so that is always really fun. I don't know, when we're together in one room, I use words like, okay, the hand closer to the window, or
yep,
to the entrance door, or whatever. So that, or the leg that's back, the leg that's in front, or whatever. So that's completely on point and it's easier for everyone.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, it's amazing how stressed out people can be when they switch around left and right, because I think
Yeah.
it's a concept that we should know, but
Uh,
in that moment we forget.
yeah. And like, how
That's
could we not know?
yeah,
That's so,
exactly.
yeah, that's super interesting. That's so helpful. That's so helpful to to know that that's everywhere too, because it gives them a moment of stress and panic, like almost that you forgot your homework or that you forgot your pants or like something. It has that sort of like visceral feeling to it
Yeah,
when you get the left and the right wrong, or they're turning the wrong direction or turning on the wrong leg, this fear, and then they can't think, and then you've lost, and then you need to take a moment to calm everybody back down so you can get them
yeah,
back, get them
yeah,
back to enjoy the next combination. So
yeah.
it's like so
You know,
interesting.
I think I heard you say one time, ah, you said something like, um, I don't know what pose it was, but then I think one of your students maybe mixed up something, and then you said, um, "That's not what I meant, but I'm sure this exists too," and it was beautiful. So I love that. I love that. I always say this too, when somebody mixes up left and right still, I'm like, "Okay, I meant the other leg, but it's fine. I'm sure this pose exists, and I'm sure it does something for the body.
Yeah,
So
or
you
I'll
can
try it.
keep
I'll
doing
do it
that."
myself.
Or
I'll do it with
yeah,
them. I'll be like, oh, well, that does
exactly.
actually feel kind of nice if I cross my like
Yeah,
left leg over
and then
like that.
it's fun. Yeah, and then it's a fun moment. And I think that's what we teachers we can do. We can transform stress into something that is actually fun, and we can show them that it's really not a big deal,
Yep.
because it isn't. It really isn't.
It's not the point. It's not the point, but someone at some point told them it was the point, and they need to see that it's okay if the right leg is in the front and the left leg is not in the front.
Yeah,
It's like it's okay. You're still doing
yeah,
the thing. I mean, maybe the
exactly.
ballet police are coming, but you'll be fine.
Ballet police, oh gosh, they're with me all the time, I think.
They're always they're always in here. They're
Everywhere.
yeah. They come for everybody, even themselves. So it's not good.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. They hop out from behind the curtain and we saw you. We saw you. The foot wasn't pointed. We got you.
Exactly, exactly. They come and get you. Literally, I could talk with you the whole day. I'm learning so much from you about,
Same.
about just teaching and language, and I mean, it's just so fascinating. It's exactly what I was hoping for the conversation would just be to learn, because you have such a depth of knowledge and experience of teaching people and helping them to learn about their bodies. And it's like, this is really difficult stuff that we try to get people to do and understand. And it's very difficult to work with somebody in adulthood who needs the motivation and needs to learn how to carve out time for themselves and needs to, wants to make a change in their life and make a change in their body. It's really difficult to do that when there's not someone forcing them to do it. You have to teach them to do it for themselves. And so I was really, really looking forward to the conversation because you've done it so well and so well with yourself and with students. And it's just been so fun to get to hear your perspective. And at anytime anyone knows if I ask you to close your eyes in class, it's because I messed up the thing. And I was too nervous for you looking at me. I'm stealing that trick for the future.
So everybody close your eyes.
Close your eyes real fast. um, One time if only I had heard this about 1 year ago. I'll tell this last hilarious story. I was teaching Zoom class, right? So I'm in my room and this giant moth came into my room. And I'm not one of these people currently who's just like, oh, a moth, that's interesting. I'm the type who's like, you know, panic and the heart rate goes up and the face turns red and the adrenaline goes up, right? So I'm teaching and the computer is on one side of the room and I'm on the back of the room and this moth just starts flying around the room. And I like just straight up panic. Like there was no, curiosity or like interesting or anything, right? And so I couldn't even like go to turn the camera off because the moth was by the computer with the camera. So I ran out of the room, left the door open, grabbed my husband at the time, fiance Tommy, and I was like, you gotta come. So they're all there on the camera because I couldn't stop. And he comes in and takes care of the moth, and I'm just like completely red in the face, and I just like have to sulk back. Like, all right, guys, let's continue the class. And they were like dying. They were laughing so hard. They will never let me forget this day. I wish I knew this trick. I could have been like, okay, guys, I need you to meditate for like 10 minutes. I feel the energy in the room is too high. I just need you.
Yeah, next time. Guys, I think it's time to close our eyes and be with ourselves and feel the body, and then you're vroom, out of the room.
Like, Tommy's like quietly taking care of the moth, and they're like
Oh
calmly
my God.
meditating right there. the
Oh my
perfect
God.
trick for all of us teachers to
Yeah.
take care of
Yes.
any
Close your
situation.
eyes. Be with yourself. Don't look at anybody else. It's all about you.
Oh man, too funny. Um,
Oh my God.
is we pretty much just let the conversation flow. Is there anything else that you were hoping to circle back to or to get to that you want to add in before we wrap up?
Mm, I kind of I don't know. I thought I will just come here and just be open to whatever because it usually works best.
Yeah.
I would just love to say what I love about adult ballet is that it's a very positive community. It's extremely immensely amazingly positive. Honestly, I was so surprised because I was a bit scared to go on Instagram and share my story because like many people, I didn't want anybody to see me dance. Nobody knew except for my husband that I started ballet. Nobody in my family, no one. Because I wanted to you just be this treasure for me. And I was scared that when somebody sees me and says something negative, then this would throw me off before, just when I started, I just needed this time. And I thought, wow, if I go on Instagram and because I wanted to connect with others, because I have no ballet people in my vicinity. So I thought, oh, should I do it or not? I thought about it for a few months and I thought, oh, Instagram, well, it can be tricky. We all know it's not a purely positive place. But then I thought, okay, what the hell? I'll just do it and maybe I'll we usually find each other, the people who can connect and support each other. But I have to say it was nothing but positive. I feel so grateful and so lucky and so blessed. I'm connected to people all over the world and we all go through the same thing. I think we can always remember that. For me, it's a basic pirouette, but for somebody else, it's this triple pirouette.
Yeah.
It looks different, but we have the same issues, we have the same challenges, and that's what connects us. And I think as long as we focus on what connects us and not what um, makes things different, when we focus on, oh, we're all human, we all have the same challenges, and we focus on what connects us, then it's nurturing for all of us. And
Mhm.
I love that in classes, you have students, you have women and men, and you have all ages. And I love that. I do that in my classes too. I have a 15-year-old coming with their grandfather who's
Mhm.
80, and they're doing the same class, they're doing the same movements. And when we dial it down to what makes us human, our fears, our hopes, our dreams, our challenges, our joy, our playfulness, our curiosity, our love, then we connect and we dissolve all the differences. It doesn't matter what age I am. I'm just there, I'm dancing, and there is a teacher like you, Julie, who supports me and who does everything she can to help me find my potential and have joy with what I do. So I really, this is something that I'd love to say. So I'm so grateful, and I was so thrilled to talk to you today. Like you said, last days I was like, yeah, we'll have this amazing conversation, and I love following your stories all the time. So yeah, thank you so much for this amazing time.
Yeah, thank you so much as well. Instagram brought us together and I think it brings together the people who are meant to see each other, even including the people who bring some negativity. Maybe they'll end up seeing what is going on and at some point reflect on their own pain that caused them to be negative in that way. I mean, it probably will take some time for that, but kind of brings you to people who you need to see. And in many ways, that's the most joyful and that's the most positive people to connect with in ballet. So I think it's been the same for many of us and
Mhm.
brought us together. And yeah, thank you so much for your time and for your energy and not energy as in the physicality of it, but like the feeling, the vibe, the ambiance of the conversation. It's been very fun and playful.
Thank you so much.
All right, dancers, that was the conversation with Susanne. I hope you had a really great time. I'll be back in your ears next week with Veronica Kay talking about all things safe training as adult ballet dancers. If you'd like to be on the show, drop me a line at hello@brocheballet.com and I'll see you in the next episode. Happy dancing!